Geronimo Stilton, The Cheese Experiment, read by Hosea Tong Ho. A super special day. One cool and peaceful Monday in late September. I woke up early, stretched my paws over my head, and got ready for a super special day. Oops, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Stilton, Geronimo Stilton. I'm the editor of the Rodents Gazette, the most famous newspaper on Mouse Island. My job keeps me busy, but the morning I was headed to my nephew Benjamin's school for the opening of their new science labs, I was supposed to give a speech. I wanted to look sophisticated for 4 reasons. 1. To make my little nephew proud. 2. Because the school principal is a good friend of mine. 3. Because I knew that Mr. Margot, Dr. Bitmouse, otherwise known as Doc, would be there. She's marvelously smart and beautiful rodent. Because my grandfather had called and hollered, "Grandson, did you comb your whiskers? Did you write a good speech? Don't be a cheese brain." The reputation of the Rodents Gazette is at stake, so it took a little longer than usual to make sure I looked mouseific. Finally, I checked myself in the mirror one last time and grinned. Not bad. I hailed a taxi and headed to Benjamin's school on the ride. I went over to speech in my head, but the closer we got to the school, the more my tail trembled and whiskers wobbled. Holy cheese! I was a wreck. The taxi driver was a rodent around Grandfather William's age. He was large and had a thick grey handlebar moustache. He kept glancing at me in the rear view mirror. At a red light, he turned to face me. "Aren't you Geronimo Stilton, the publisher of the Rodents Gazette?" I nodded. "Yes, that's me." "Mr. Stilton, your snout is as white as a slice of mozzarella cheese," he said, looking worried. "Are you feeling okay? Are you getting car sick? There's a special sickness bag under the seat. I always keep a few handy for weak stomach rodents like you." I held up a paw and tried to reassure him. "Oh, it's not car sickness, I promise. I'm just nervous. When I get to school, I have to walk a red carpet in front of hundreds of rodents without tripping, give a speech in front of hundreds of rodents and TV reporters without forgetting what to say, and cut the inaugural ribbon for the new science lab without snipping my paw." The cab driver raised an eyebrow and muttered, "Mr. Stilton, I assumed you were a brilliant, carefree mouse, like your grandfather William Shortpaws. I had the pleasure of driving him around in my cab quite often in the old days. Cheese and crackers, I tried to justify myself. Well, sometimes, actually, I'm more or less an easygoing mouse, but today I have to give a speech, and I'm so worried about it that my fur is standing on end. Excuse me," I buried my snout in the pages of my speech. They don't make journalists the way they used to," the cab driver grumbled. "Your grandfather William was a real journalist, not a cheesehead like you." By now we had arrived at New Mouse City Elementary School, the same school I was at when I was a mouseling. As I climbed out of the taxi, I noticed something weird. There were little blue clouds hovering in the air outside the school. They stunk of garlic cheese niblets. How strange. A calm, brilliant, confident mouse. Even though I was more nervous than a mouse in a room full of cats, the morning went well. I climbed the school steps without tripping and greeting my friends and the principal with a polite kiss on the paw. "You're such a gentle mouse, Geronimo," he squeaked. I didn't freeze when I gave my speech, even though hundreds of reporters were watching and filming me, all the TV stations on Mouse Island. I didn't get a tongue-tied even once, a record for a shy mouse like me. And when I cut the yellow ribbon to open my new ultra-modern science labs, I didn't pick my paws, snip off any whiskers, or get tangled up in any ribbon. Slimy Swiss cheese. It was a miracle. Was I finally becoming a calm, brilliant, and confidential rodent? I scurried into the new science lab, feeling marvelous. When the principal came, showing us the new lab equipment, I stood upright and held my snout high in the air, just like a mouse who was calm, brilliant, and confident. Just like a mouse who was calm and brilliant and confident, but I didn't pay attention to the freshly waxed floor. I approached the principal to compliment her. The lab's absolutely a state of art. I didn't have time to finish before I slipped on the wax floor. After doing a double-twisted, death-defying somersault, I ended up with my snout in the garbage can. So much for being calm, brilliant, confident mouse. Or cheese brain. I pulled my head out of the garbage can and saw the principal staring at me with a funny-looking honest snout. My face turned as red as a tomato sauce as a double cheese pizza. I tried to crack a joke. "I know it looks like I slipped, but I was just making sure the floor was perfectly smooth." The principal raised an eyebrow. "What about diving into the garbage can?" Looking down my paws, I muttered, "I was checking to see if it was empty." I felt like such a cheese brain. She burst out laughing. "Geronimo, you haven't changed your whiskers since we were in elementary school." And then she rat-munching rattlesnake. She kissed me lightly on the tip of my snout. Now I was red from the ends of my ears to the tip of my tail. At that moment I noticed something strange. There was an enormous blue spot on the principal's snout. More than mozzarella, a blue spot. Rotten rat teeth, an ugly blue spot had popped up on my friend's snout. It was so enormous, so blue, that I couldn't stop staring at it. Tugging on her whiskers nervously, she asked, "Why are you staring at my snout?" I don't want to offend her, so I muttered, "Oh, I was just looking at your beautiful blue eyes." "My eyes aren't blue," she said slowly. "They're black." Oops. She opened her purse, pulled out a mirror, and squeaked, thundering cattails, "What is that blue spot?" The principal looked like she was about to faint from shock. A second later, I heard a loud squeak from another mouse. More than mozzarella, a blue spot. Then I heard another one, and another one, and another one. Rancid ricotta, a blue spot. For love cheese, what was happening? Just then I found an itch on my snout. Did I have a blue spot too? While everyone headed up to grab fresh mints, I scampered to the bathroom. Phew, I was safe. No blue spots. I headed back to the lab, but I couldn't stop thinking the strange whole thing was awfully strange. That's when I ran into my sister, Thea, and Doc. Doc is a tough, energetic rodent who's very beautiful. She's Flabby Mouse, but every time I see her, I always get my tail in a twist and end up looking like a complete cheese brain. I was just hoping she hadn't seen my somersault, the one that ended with the dive into the garbage can. Maybe she had been looking the other way. Doc pinched my cheeks and squeaked, "Nice job, my little cheese puff. You gave a Marvin Mouse speech, and congrats. On the tumble, too." Peering at my paws, I headed towards the fresh mints with my tail between my legs, but just when I got there, I forgot all about the embarrassment because most of the rodents near me were covered with blue spots. I scampered over to the principal and whispered, "There's blue spots everywhere. That worries me." I lowered my voice further. "Should we, send everyone home? They could be contagious." "You're right, Geronimo," she said, nodding her snout. She walked up to the microphone and announced, "Dear rodents, thank you for coming on this special day. Unfortunately, we have to end festivities to an end. It was wonderful seeing all of you. Thank you, and goodbye." An enormous banana ice cream cone. I took Benjamin's paw and headed out. "That's awesome," she squeaked happily. "Uncle G, your speech was awesome." Nixon Bugsy chuckled. "The best part, though, was the surprise ending when you dove into the garbage can. I pretended I hadn't heard her because Doc had just walked out of school. She pinched me in the cheek again and said, 'Nice job, my little cheese puff. The principal told me it was your idea to send everyone home.' You're right, those blue spots do seem contagious. Maybe you're not a hopeless chitterhead after all." Flustered, I blurted, "Oh, compliment for the thanks, I mean. Thanks for the compliment. Even if I'm not really totally completely sure that what you said was a compliment, because I have a feeling you said I'm a hopeless chitterhead. But I hope always that I don't look like a chitterhead. Anyways, thanks." With that, Doc walked away chuckling to herself. I wanted to tear out my whiskers, but I couldn't let Benjamin Bugsy see my frustration. So I tried not to let my fur get ruffled. Instead, I said, "How about some ice cream?" "Yes, Flapper Mouse," Bugsy and Benjamin squeaked excitedly. We went to the Icy Rat, which has the best ice cream in New Mouse City. We sat at a small table and each ordered the house specialty, 7 flavors of yum. It was whiskey, looking good. I had just started on the second layer of my ice cream, mascarpone and mint, when I heard a voice whisper, "Hey, you, psst." Holy cheese, I thought. I recognized the voice. I turned around and didn't see anyone, so I shrugged, picked up my spoon, and dug it into the ice cream again. "Hey, you, psst, I'm talking to you." I turned, but the only thing I saw was an enormous plastic banana ice cream cone. Strange. I was about to take another bite off an ice cream when someone smacked me on the back so hard I ended up snout deep in my bowl. "Geronimo, I've called you 3 times now." Crusty cat litter. After I wiped my mascarpone mint ice cream out of my eyes, I turned around for the 3rd time. I saw a familiar snout with huge teeth pop out from the banana-flavored ice cream cone. "Psst, Hercule Poirot, do you like my disguise?" "Hercule," I whispered in surprise. "What are you doing here?" "I'm doing here? I'm investigating," he explained. "I want you to keep your eyes wide open. That's a mystery of poor Geronimo, and I need you to help me solve it." Hercule Poirot is a famous private detective and one of my good friends. He's always trying to get me involved in this crazy investigation. I couldn't help being intrigued. What kind of mystery is it this time?" "I don't know yet," Hercule said, lowering his voice to a whisper, "but stay on your paws and keep your eyes wide open and be alert." "Got it, Geronimo," I squeaked. "How can I be alert if I don't even know what I'm supposed to be looking for?" But Hercule had already vanished. Bugsy and Benjamin hadn't noticed anything. They were too busy gobbling up their ice cream. When they got to their 7th layer, spicy gorgonzola, and chocolate with pistachios. They both got sweet for the 7th time. Holy cheese, this is so good! When they finally looked up from their empty cups, they gaped at with funny looks at their snouts. Then they both burst out laughing. You really like your ice cream, huh, Uncle G? Benjamin said with a giggle. It's all over you. You look like you did a should-have dived right into the bowl. Squeak felt like such a cheese brain. Newsflash. I took Benjamin and Bugsy home, and then I scampered back to my house. Rancid ricotta. I was so sticky from the ice cream that an annoying swarm of flies had begun buzzing all around me. To get rid of them, I took a warm shower, scrubbed my fur with mozzarella, scented soap, and finished with dusting a fresh cheese-scented powder. Once I was clean, I wandered into the kitchen for a snack. I made myself a triple-decker cheese sandwich along with a huge mozzarella milkshake. Yum. I turned on the TV to watch the news and began nibbling on my sandwich. But when I heard the reporter say, almost made me choke on my cheese. Alarming newsflash from New Mouse City, Mouse Island's capital, he began. It seems that a rodent had been struck by a bizarre disease. A disease that is very contagious and produces strange blue spoils. The best scientists in New Mouse City are currently looking for this bizarre phenomenon. Stay tuned in for the Rat TV for the latest. I turned it off, gobbled down my food, and got dressed. Faster than a rat with a cat on his tail, I went to the Rodents Gazette office. Everyone there sounded totally rattled. Before I could speak, Priscilla, Pretty Whiskers, shouted, "Boss, where are you? Do you hear about those blue spots? What do you want us to do?" Priscilla shook a paw. "Get all the editors together in an emergency meeting," I said. I hung up and called Mayor Frederick. Fuzzy Paws, one of my old friends, he cried. "Geronimo, I need your help to rescue New Mouse City's rodents about this blue spot outbreak. I'm counting on you." The next rodent I called was Steer, who was also shouting in my ear. "Did you hear the news about the blue spots?" "Of course I did," I squeaked. "I need you to call our friends and family except for grandfather. Have them meet us at the Rodents Gazette office in 2 shakes of a mouse." I hung up and hightailed it to the Rodents Gazette. Out on the street, I was struck squeakless. It looked like many rodents had been reacted to the emergency, and they'd taken matters into their own paws in a different way. First, a strange mouse wearing a wetsuit, goggles, and a snorkel accidentally stepped on my tail. Another was walking on stilts to breathe cleaner air, he said, and another had wrapped himself in aluminium foil. One rodent had even smeared himself with a concoction made of rotten Gonzola cheese. She was surrounded by a cloud of flies. "Rats, what a smell!" Pinching my snout, I asked, "Excuse B, why did you bezire yourself with wild rotted Concozola?" Translation: "Excuse me, why did you smear yourself with rotten Gorgonzola?" She answered, "Mr. Stilton, I thought it was obvious. The smell keeps the germs away. You know who told me? My fur dresser's mother-in-law friends." But I stopped listening when I dived and spotted Trap. He was wearing a deep-water diver's helmet. He started talking to me, but with the helmet over his snout. I couldn't hear a single word. I stared at his mouth, and after a while I figured out what he was saying by reading his lips. "You'll catch the blue spots. Na 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 na," he sing-songed. "I have this helmet, so I don't have to worry." An enormous, important cure. When I arrived at the Rodents Gazette, the conference was packed. We had to put a double row of chairs around the table so that everyone could fit. Everyone was there. The staff of the Rodents Gazette, plus all my friends and relatives, including Grandfather William, cheese and crackers. I'd left instructions not to tell him about the meeting. But there he was in front of me. Grandfather always manages to find out about everything, and when there's an emergency, he scampers back to the Rodents Gazette and takes control. As soon as he saw me, he squeaked, "There's no time to waste. The city's in chaos, and the blue spots are popping up everywhere. Get your tail in gear." Trap jumped up and showed a sign that he had written. It said, "Here's the solution. A good helmet. Ta-da!" "Trap, I don't think that's gonna work," I said, scratching my snout. "We can't live without helmets over our snouts all the time. We need to find a real solution." "Well," said Grandson, "you do seem whatever intelligent when you try." Grandfather William said, "And because I'm always a paw ahead of you, I've already asked my friend, Professor Brainy Mouse, to find the solution." Only then did I notice an intelligent-looking rodent seated next to my grandfather. He cleared a straw and squeaked, "Rodents, diving helmets, and other do-it-yourself remedies won't work. To fight the strange disease, we first might have to pinpoint exactly what it is. Once we know that, we can cure it." Trap shrugged and held up another sign. "I'll never take off that helmet. You never know what could happen. I don't want to get sick." Moldy Mozzarella. Once again, my cousin gets a fur-brained idea in his head. There's no stopping him. "What about us, Astia? What can the Rodents Gazette do?" Professor Brainy Mouse smiled. "You can do here. A lot of list." I quickly read the list and announced, "No problem. We'll take care of it. The most crucial information of the citizens of New Mouse City. The professor got up and squeaked, "Thank you. In the meantime, I'll scurry over to the laboratory and start on the research immediately." Professor Von Volt, Doc, and a group of the best researchers in New Mouse City are waiting for me. As soon as I heard the name Doc, I blushed and stammered, I would be happy to go with you so that I can keep the readers up to date with the progress of the progress of our research." Professor Brainy Mouse looked at me like I had three snouts. He checked in my eyes, checked my pulse, took my brain blood pressure, and ordered me to open my mouth. White eyeballs, high blood pressure, red, pink cheeks, wobbly legs, tongue-tied. There's no doubt it's a bad case of rancid ricotta. I quickly interrupted. "Professor, tell me the truth," I begged, twisting my tail. "Do I have a bad case of blue spot disease?" "No, nothing serious. You're as healthy as a fresh, sharp cheddar." He winked and whispered, "Mr. Stilton, you've got a bad crush." What a Babby Mouse team. Grandfather William stared at me over the top of his glasses and exclaimed, "A crush? How silly. Geronimo, don't you dare make me look bad in front of my friend. Here, tail and gear. For now, I'll leave you in charge. But if you don't shape up, I'll take over. Understand? I promised my grandfather I'd do my very best." Chattering Cheddar, what else could I say? As soon as he and the Professor Brainy Mouse left, I was ready to get to work. There was so much to do, but I couldn't let it get to my fur. My entire staff and my friends wanted to help. First, I noticed every mouse's age and skill, and Patty Plumprat helped me organize everything that needed to be done. Soon every rodent had been given a specific task. What a fabulous mouse team! Trout, Deer, Benjamin, and Bugsy Wugsy offered to come with me to Professor Brainy Mouse's lab and see how the research was going. Deer was in charge of taking photos. Benjamin and Bugsy were writing a blog to keep our readers informed about the progress. And Trout, wow, Trout kept us all laughing with his jokes. Together we headed to the Academy of Science, New Mouse City's top scientific university. Professor Brainy Mouse's team was holed up in there working around the clock to find a cure for the strange blue spots. The campus had been recently built in a brand new neighborhood on the outskirts of New Mouse City. It wasn't even the map yet, but everyone had called it the Science Quarter. The Academy had the most modern science laboratories and the biggest science library I'd ever seen. The very best of the best researchers worked and studied there. Mouserific. At the campus entrance, and a tall, athletic mouse wearing an oversized lab coat greeted us with a bright smile. "I bet you're Mr. Stilton," he squeaked. "I'm Richard Curlytail, assistant and researcher. Call me Rick. This way, please. The professor's waiting for you." Thea shook his paws. "Nice to meet you, Rick. I'm Thea, and this is Benjamin, Bugsy Wugsy, and Trap. Welcome. For safety and security reasons, please put on the coats." After giving us lab coats, he handed each of us a small ID card. "Here, these are your badges. Keep them on at all times. Serious security." Rick led us through some big rooms, courtyards, warehouses, and stairwells until we finally came to Professor Brainy Mouse's laboratory. He made us all walk single file on a yellow line as high-tech cameras scanned our eyes. Rat-munching rattlesnakes, this was some serious security. Suddenly, 5 mechanical arms popped out of the ceiling, all holding huge pairs of tweezers, then plucked out a whisker from each of us. Youch! Holy cheese, that hurt. "Sorry about the whiskers," Rick apologized, "but it's necessary precaution. Now the security system will recognize your eyes and DNA." I nodded. "I understand. I've been in some top secret scenarios before." "Listen up, everyone," Rick squeaked. "Professor Benjamin Brainy Mouse's lab requires the highest level of security. Do you understand?" He lowered his voice. "The professor has given us a special project, codenamed the Cheese Experiment. That way, other mice won't know what he and the team are working on." Once we were all suited up, Rick entered the access code on a keypad and the door to the laboratory opened. He escorted us to the lab where Professor Brainy Mouse waved us in. "Welcome to the Cheese Experiment," he whispered in a wink. "Let me show you around. Please be very quiet. It's important not to distract the researchers. They're working on very complicated experiments, and they need to keep their snouts down and focus." He turned to me. "Mr. Stilton, be sure to keep an eye on. My grandfather told me, Mr. Stilton, be sure to take good notes. My grandfather asked me to keep an eye on you. It's important that you, our readers, are well informed." "Of course," I quickly answered. "I respect my readers." I pulled a notebook and began to scribble. First, I wrote down the name and special skills of each researcher. I spotted Professor Paws Von Volt and his nephew Dewey, along with Vivian and Von Volt, Professor Astrofur and Dr. Swiss Whiskers. There was other young researchers in the lab too, including a striking rodent with a platinum blonde fur and icy blue eyes, whom I'd never seen before. Her name was Wanda McSlice, and she was a biotechnologist with a scholarship paid by a company named Cheese Inc. And naturally, Doc was there too. Squeak! My tail trembled and my fur stood on end. I was so excited when I walked past her. I tripped over the leg of a stool and I spun on my paws. Did a double backflip, landed flat on my belly and smacked my snout right on the floor. Bang! Good news, bad news. All the researchers looked at me and I blushed from the ends of my ears to the tip of my tail. Shh, Geronimo, couldn't you stay on your paws for once? They scolded me. Trap flicked my ears with a grin. Try not to be such a tree's brain. Just then, Wanda McSlice jumped to her paws and screeched, "Rotten rat's teeth! I can't work with all this noise." She stormed out, slamming the door behind her. She certainly had a tail in a twist. "She's still edgy," Rick explained, "but she's the best in her field." Doc gave her a wry look as she walked over to pinch me on the cheek. "Here's my little cheese puff. I heard you coming. It was the familiar smack on the floor that gave you away." "Oh, how embarrassing. I didn't trip," I stammered. "I wanted to, see if the floor was clean." It was a mess. Luckily, the professor stepped in and asked us to follow him to the conference room for an important announcement. Professor Brainy Mouse sat down behind a large desk, cleared his throat, and said, "Dear colleagues, I have good news and bad news." "What do you want to hear first?" "The good news," we all exclaimed. The professor nodded grimly. "The good news is that I discovered the name of the mysterious blue spot disease while I was looking through a very old book. The disease is Rodentia spolentis." He looked at me. "Did you get that, Geronimo?" "Yes," I said, my pen flying across the page. So what's the bad news? "The bad news is that there's no cure, so it's up to us to find one. Rick will give you all the researchers' protocol. Good luck." The scientist scampered out of the room. Rodentia spontilis. What is it? A very rare disease described 100 years ago in an ancient document titled The Mysterious Blue Spot Disease. Now the condition is better known as Rodentia spolentis. Symptoms: blue spots all over the body, especially in the snout. How is it evolved? If not addressed, it causes brigidity on the tail. If left untreated far too long, it can even cause the tail to fall off. Cause unknown, cure unknown. Current plan: analyze the blue spots, find the cause of the disease, find the cure. I sat there reviewing my notes and minding my own business. Jumping jack cheese snakes. A cactus pricked me. "Youch!" I squeaked, leaping to my paws. "It's me, Hercule. Did you like my little prank?" I sighed. "No, I didn't. My tail is full of thorns. Well, it's time to get your tail in care. From this moment on, I want you to keep an eye on the researchers. Don't let them out of your sight for a second, because they are working day and night. You have to stay awake day and night. Thundering cattails. What if I have to go to the bathroom? What if I fall sleepy? What if I get hungry? Geronimo, this is important," Hercule squeaked. "If you're hungry, have some banana cakes. They'll give you energy." He shoved a powerful pawful of candies into my mouth. Yuck! Eyes open, day and night. From then on, I kept my eyes open day and night, just like Hercule instructed. Professor Brainy Mouse and his scientists worked around the clock. They worked every second day of the year, every second day of the night too. They would have forgotten to eat if Tina hadn't come every day with a pan full of triple cheese lasagna to keep us going. The first day went pretty well. The second day I started seeing stars. The third day I had raccoon eyes. The fourth day I looked like a zombie. By the fifth day I was an enormous mess. But the researchers were so engrossed in the cheese experiment, they never seemed to get tired. There was one tough team of mice. At night, Wanda McSlice and Doc worked side by side in the lay. They didn't look the least bit tired, not a single drooping whisker between them. I tried to keep my eyes open, but I was getting so sleepy I tried thinking about 15 cups of tea to keep myself awake, but they didn't help at all. Cheese niblets. In the dead of night, we came to check on how the work was going. He even brought me an ancient book that talked about the blue spot disease. I think you'll like it, Geronimo. It's fascinating. I know you have a passion for old books. Just in Doc's suite. "Professor Brainy Mouse, I just made a mouse-terrific discovery." The professor and Doc scurried into a corner to talk. Every so often I could hear the professor cry out, "Fabby Mouse, amazing, mouse-tastic." For a second it seemed like Wanda, Miss Slice, was trying to eavesdrop on the conversation, but it was probably just my imagination. After all, she was on their team. Why would she need to eavesdrop? With a shrug, I began flipping through my old book, Cheese and Crackers. For a while, I forgot how tired I was. The book was really fabulous. It described the symptoms of the blue spot disease and explained how it spread many, many years ago, but didn't say anything about a cause for a possible cure. As I read, I noticed some pages were missing. It looked like pages had been torn from the book. How strange. But then again, this book was incredibly old. The pages must have fallen out over time, right? As I thought about it, I felt my eyelids grow heavier and heavier and heavier. Then, without realizing, I fell asleep. A town, absolute, downright disaster. When I finally woke up, I was tied to the swivel chair like a mummy. Slimy Swiss cheese. A voice was speaking urgently in my ear. Wake up! I slowly opened my eyes. Standing in front of me was Hercule. Phew. He untied me then with his paws on his hips and a stern expression on his snout. He said, Geronimo, what happened? Didn't I tell you to keep your eyes open? I have to go, but meet me at the cheese ink factory in an hour. There's definitely something funny going on. I finally looked around and noticed that the entire laboratory was in shambles. Upside down test tubes, broken equipment, flooded floors. It was a total, absolute, downright disaster. And in one corner, also tied up like a mummy, was Doc. She had a huge lump on her head, was completely unconscious, whiskers wobbling. I scurried over to free her. When I reached her, she opened her eyes and said, My hero, maybe you're not a cheeseman after all. My snout turned red. Hero? I tried to focus. What happened? Who clunked you on the head? Did you see anyone? Unfortunately, I didn't see a thing, she squeaked. I just had finished telling the professor that I had found a possible cure for rodenta spolititis when he left. I turned back to my work. A second later, I felt a thump and blacked out. Wait, one whisker-looking minute. Wanda McSlice had disappeared. How strange. Without wasting another moment, I set up the alarm. Whoa, whoa, whoa! The alarm was the only way to alert all the scientists that something had happened. Professor Brainy Mouse was the first to arrive. What's going on? He squeaked urgently. A fire, a flood of gas leak, a total, absolute, downright disaster, I cried. Soon all the rodents on the campus gathered in the emergency meeting place in the courtyard. The only one missing was Wanda McSlice. How strange. Benjamin, Bugsy Wugsy, and Theo were there. I gave them each a reassuring hug. Don't get your tails in your wrist. Everything's under control, almost. Theo and I helped the professor inspect the laboratories. Unfortunately, everything was destroyed. The microscopes, the computers, the notes. It was a total, absolute, downright disaster. Rats, it was going to be impossible to move ahead with the cheese experiment. Only someone truly evil could have destroyed all that work, but that so many rodents' tails depended on. We rodents are very protective of our tails. At that moment, I felt a tug on my jacket. It was Bugsy, Wugsy, and Benjamin. Uncle G, we have an idea, Benjamin said. Professor Brainy Mouse and his team could use the labs at our school. Bugsy Wugsy exclaimed. Think about it. They're brand new, and they have cutting-edge computers and microscopes too. Holy cheese. It was a truly fabulous idea. I hugged them both. Mouse-tastic, thinking, I'm proud of you. Maybe there's still hope for a cure. Want a banana? Quick as a mouse on a cheese hunt, I called the school principal and New Mouse City's mayor to get permission to use the school laboratories. Professor Brainy Mouse and his colleagues headed for the school to resume their research. In the meantime, I scurried to meet Hercule at the cheese ink factory. I ducked behind a banana plant and peeked at the factory, but as I did, the plant spoke. Psst, hey Geronimo, want a banana? It was Hercule again. He signaled for me to be quiet. Then he reached to his pocket of his yellow trench coat and pulled out a pair of powerful binoculars, a strange listening device he had invented to hear distant conversations. He gave them to me and whispered, Hey Geronimo, something suspicious is going on down there. Oh, my name isn't Hercule, poor rat. I put on headphones and pointed the binoculars towards an open window on the first floor. Double-twisted rat tails. I couldn't believe my eyes. In a room of the first floor of the cheese ink factory, I spotted none other than Sally Ratmouse and Wanda McSlice. In Wanda's paws, I could see the scientist's notes and test tube full of liquid. Rancid ricotta. I turned on my headphones and listened carefully. Good job, Sally said. You are ready to destroy the cheese experiment. Doc was about to discover the cure for rodentia spolititis, but we need to keep it to ourselves. With it, we can ransom all the infected mice. They have to give us an enormous pile of gold. Goodbye, Tails. One of McSlice squeaked. Yes, but don't forget it was my idea to spread rodentia spolititis through the city. I was the one who found the description of the disease, and I was the ancient library book. I was the one to infiltrate the labs. I was the one to stop Brainy Mouse team. Sally squeaked. How dare you? This is my factory. I built it. I prepared to concentrate to spread the Rodentia spolititis. I had my airplane spray across the city. It was all me. Rotten rat teeth. What horrible rodents. We had to stop them and fast. Without thinking twice, Hercule and I ran to the building, leaped through the window, and bounded into the room. Hercule bellowed fiercely, "Hercule, poor rat is here." Then he added, "We got you," but Sally and Wanda burst out laughing. "Ha ha. Tried to stop us," she screamed. Sally sneered. "Rodentia spolititis is everywhere, and we're the only ones with the cure. Either we get a sack of gold, or we can say goodbye to your tails." Let's teach those rats a lesson. Whisker trembling with anger, I squeaked, "Shame on you, Sally, and Dr. McSlice. You should be ashamed too." "A scientist should never behave like this. Actually, I'm not a scientist," she squeaked, with a sly smile. "I'm not even Wanda McSlice." She pulled off her wig and a top layer of clothing. Holy cheese, it was a shadow. "And I'm not Sally," the other rodent added, tearing off her disguise too. It was the nefarious Lisa. Before Hercule and I could even squeak, the two thieves jumped out the window. Their true identities. Shouting, "Remember, we want a stack of cash or gold, or goodbye your tails. We'll be contacting the mayor soon." We chased them as fast as our paws could carry us. We were closing on when a helicopter appeared out of nowhere and lowered a rope. "Sleazer," and the shadow quickly grabbed on, and they flew away. They cried, "Try catching us now, chitterheads." Suddenly, we heard a noise in the room we had just left behind. It seemed to be coming from inside a cabinet. We flung the cabinet door open and found Sally Ratmaster inside. "It's about time," she squeaked with a sigh. "Thank you, Geronimo," Wanda McSlice. "I'm in the shadow. Locked me in here after she tricked me into funding her research." "I'm so happy you're not working with that awful sewer rat, Sally," I began. But Sally interrupted me. "I am and will always be your enemy. This is just a short truce for the good of all mice. Then we'll be going back to be enemies, just like before." I shook her paw. "You're one of my competitors, but you will never be my enemy. But fine. Truce." Hercule reached into the trench coat and pulled out a tray holding the glasses of banana smoothie. "How about we toast to her?" he squeaked. As we toasted, I noticed that the shadow had dropped the 2 sheets of paper. Cheese and crackers, there were the pages torn out of the old Rodentia spolititis. Rodentia spolititis seems to be related to the blue garlic of Ratziskistan. I have often observed that patients who contract Rodentia spolititis had come into contact with species of Molodrus garlic. Typically, the patients were farmers, they unloading merchandise, and peasants who had inadvertently ingested a piece. The book contained enormously important information that could almost certainly help Professor Brainy Mouse find a cure. We jumped into Hercule's banana mobile and zoomed into the school's laboratory. "Faster, Hercule, faster," Sally urged. "Let's teach those sewer rats a lesson they won't forget." Friends together, mice forever. A few moments later, we pulled up in front of Benjamin and Bugsy's school. We hightailed it to the laboratory, frantically waving 2 missing pages from the old book on the blue spot disease. Professor Brainy Mouse scampered towards us, took the pages in his paws, and stared at them for a long time, murmuring, interesting." Without another squeaky word, he closed himself inside the lab with his team. When he finally came out, he announced, "Friends, we found the cure for the blue spot disease, but it needs to be administered within a few hours or it will be too late." "Give it to me!" cried Sally. "I can produce an enormous amount of it in my factory, and I'll use my plane to spray it over the city," they added. "And I'll keep morale high with my Fabulous jokes," Trap exclaimed. I tried not to roll my eyes. "I'll get a news out in a flash about the cure," I squeaked. Dot piped up too, and I'll take care of my organizing a giant party to get as many mice as possible in one place. We all put our paws together and shouted, "Friends forever, mice together." We scampered off as fast as our paws could take us. With Benjamin and Bugsy's help, I wrote a long article for the Rollins Gazette, "The Cheese Experiment." Our readers need to know the whole truth about the blue spot disease, not to mention Sleazer and Shadow's blackmail plans. Once my article was finished and sent to the printer, I remembered that I had barely closed my eyes in days. I was sleepier than a marathon mouse. I suddenly felt my eyelids become heavier and heavier and heavier. I spotted Thea flying over the city in her plane before I fell asleep with a thump. When I woke up, Hercule's snout was right in my face. Standing next to him were Thea, Trap, Benjamin, Bugsy, and Professor Brainy Mouse, all staring at me with worried looks on their snouts. How strange! I touched my face and cheese snippets, felt a huge bump on the tip of my snout. "No! A blue spot!" I almost fainted from fright, but Trap burst out laughing. "You're such a cheese brain, cousin," he said. "Did you like my little joke? It's a fake spot. The Rodentia spolititis has been cured." It was a horrible joke, but I was so relieved I couldn't stay angry. I burst out laughing. Thundering cattails, let's party. And so the cheese experiment came to an end with a bit of a scare, a laugh, and a party with good friends. It was a fabulous adventure, but we never would have discovered the cure if we hadn't worked together. After all, every problem had a solution, and together we can find it. So long until my next adventure. Your friend, Geronimo Stilton.